Hey there viewers, welcome back. Got something a little different today, something I think you'll be interested in, and it's not a diagnostic video, it's actually a repair video. Propped up on my personal automobile, this 2009 Ford Ranger. It's got the 4.0 V6 and it is a automatic transmission. It's got about 70,000 miles on it and it is due for the transmission service, and you know, honestly I've been sort of postponing it and malingering because I haven't really wanted to do it, you know, even though it's really not a difficult job or anything. But I had the idea, hey, you know what? Here's something that'll make it exciting. Why don't I bring my fans in on it, and you know, that'll give me some motivation into actually getting this job done. So I'm going to take you along every step of the way, show you what's involved. A lot of you, it's going to be real basic. For others, especially those owning a Ranger, you know, it might be right up your alley. So let's get started. So step one in doing this job is getting this hood popped and getting this thing set up on this lift here. So that's what I'm going to start working on. A little shake once you get things up, just to make sure it's not going to go anywhere, is always a good idea. Awesome. So now that we got this thing picked up in the air, we take a look at the meat and potatoes of the issue here. There's our transmission pan. That's what we're going to be removing to do this service. Transmission fluid and filter change. You know, honestly, everything is pretty accessible. The only things you really got to get rid of are just, you know, this little heat shield here. You got to kind of work in between the exhaust pipe and this cross member, you know, this transmission support brace. But this is a really easy job. The first thing that I like to start with doing is just spraying everything off with some brake clean. Make sure I get all of the dust particles and stuff out from around the transmission pan area, because I don't want that stuff going into the actual valve body assembly. So we're going to start with a quick little spritz, and then we're going to get started on pulling this pan. Start this thing off with a little brake clean. Let's get rid of some of this sediment buildup here. This transmission does have a few leaks. They need to be addressed. I have a few different seals I need to install, but that's not really the focus. It's not really the focus with this video here. I'm more just trying to do this routine service, and I'll get these seals replaced when the time seems right. I know it needs an output shaft seal. A couple other small leaks, nothing major. Around the back side here. Awesome. Looking good there. I'm just kind of eyeballing this heat shield here. It looks like it's just clipped on to the transmission. So tool of choice for removal there. I'm just going to get this pry bar in between the pan and where this clip actually seats. I should be able to wiggle that right out. Looks like it has a bolt up top, but I don't really need to get that out of the way. So just to show you what I'm talking about, got this heat shield here that we saw before. That literally just comes down and clips onto the transmission. So I just took a pry bar and just pry that away. It can sit up there. There's another little bar that goes up there that bolts to the top. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to let it hang here. So next up, I'm going to start whizzing some of these bolts out. They're all 8 mil. Looks like there's about 20 of them on here. So to do that, I'm just going to grab a cordless impact. You know, you can do this by hand, obviously. Wanting to be done with this quickly, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is probably drop most of these. So I'm leaving one bolt in back here, as you can see. There's a reason for that you will see once I get all these bolts out. Man, I'm doing an excellent job at dropping these. I'm also going to leave one on this back side here. Okay. Let me get all of these picked up off the floor. That's something you want to lose. So I've got one bolt still in here, and I've got one bolt still in here. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to use that as a leverage point to start draining this pan of fluid. So this inevitably becomes the messy part of the job. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen this bolt right here, not fully. As you can see, we're now spilling fluid out, and I've done good so far not to spill any. That's pretty wicked, so we're just going to kind of let this run out a little bit here. Hoping that's showing up on the camera all right. You know, I'm not Eric O at South Main Auto. I've never done one of these repair videos before. So I am definitely inexperienced when it comes to what shots to get and all that good stuff. Tell you what we'll do. Let me put this little light right here. I think that'll help. Help matters. What do you guys think? Does that help? Oh, it totally helps. Sweet. So this is slowed down considerably now, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull this bolt out a little bit more, maybe all the way. Yeah, we're just going to pull it out all the way. So now that I have that out all the way, I'm going to come around to this back side. I'm going to loosen this bolt up just a little bit. And as I loosen this up, I'm going to keep control of this pan here. And then I'm going to gently and in a controlled fashion scoot this thing down out of here so I don't make a mess. Sort of dumping some of that residual stuff off in this pan. And that looks good. We're going to let this thing drip away for a little bit here. So with the pan removed, we have a good view of what we're really going to be doing inside of this transmission. Right here we have the filter. It's held on with one 10mm fastener right here. So really what we're going to do is we're going to whiz this bolt out and we're going to pull this filter off, and then we're going to install the new one. All right, so just one 10mm here. Just breaking that loose with my impact. The Archie blows. This filter assembly should just pull right out and make a huge mess everywhere. Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? God, and I've been so good lately with not making messes too. Yeah, it does not take long to make a mess around here, especially when you're talking about stuff like this. So now we made a nice little mess. Here's our filter, kind of journeying away here. And one thing to pay attention to is it has this seal right here on this hole. This hole goes that way, just in case you're wondering. But it also has a seal over here. So two different seals. We're going to need to make sure we replace those on the new filter. This is our new filter here. And in the kit, you'll get a new filter, you'll get a new gasket, which I am not going to reuse because these are garbage. These gaskets on these pans are reusable for a lot of these Ford transmissions, by the way, so if they're not leaking, you can reuse them. I'm going to opt to reuse mine because it was not leaking. It is not one of the transmission leaks present on this vehicle. But as far as our seals go, these are it. Come in this little Ziploc bag. So I'm just going to snap these into place here. Small one goes on the small side, and the large one goes on the large side. I'm doing a quick visual all the way around to make sure it's seated. It looks good. Looks good on that side too. In case you're wondering what part number I'm using, I am using a CarQuest kit. So, let's see if I can find the part number on here. Here's the part number if you're curious, 85841. This will fit your 5R55 automatic Ford. So let's get this filter in. So installation of this filter is reverse of removal. Very, very simple here. So a small side goes towards the back of the vehicle, the smaller orifice on the filter. So I'm just getting this stuck up in here. Make sure you put a little bit of clean transmission fluid on these O-rings so that they seal properly. So I'm just using my thumbs to press that up into place. Sticking my little 10mm bolt up there, and I'm just hand threading that in. I'm going to run that in very gently the rest of the way with my impact just to take up the slack, just till it touches. Torque spec on this, 89 inch-pounds. So not very tight, guys. You don't really have to use a torque wrench here, but I'm kind of a torque Nazi, I'll admit. Good to go. Now that's torqued down. I'm just going to do a quick visual. All right, now let's take a look at the pan. So pretty straightforward on getting this pan cleaned out. Just going to use a little bit of brake clean here. I'm just going to spritz some of the big stuff out of here. Not going to get it all this time around. Just trying to get some of the heavy stuff. So a next step is if we look right here, we have this magnet in this corner of the pan. We're just going to pull that magnet off and we're going to wipe off all the metal particles on that. And you can literally just pull it off. Just taking a rag here and I'm just getting as much of this metal film off as you can. You know, obviously it being a magnet, you're not going to be able to get it all, but you definitely want to get the big particulation off of it. So now that we got that, we're going to finish spritzing this pan out. This transmission has been serviced before. I believe that when you first crack one of these open, you'll have a little plug in the pan. I've seen that, especially on like 4R74 transmissions. I'm not sure if the 5R55s do that. I haven't worked on enough of them to know. But if you pull this pan off on a newer truck and you see a little yellow plug sort of floating around in this pan, don't worry. That is just an installation plug. And it is common to see that on a transmission where the pan has not been dropped. So I'm just taking this rag here and I'm just kind of going through this and scrubbing some of this more stuck on material off. I'm not cleaning the outside of the pan. I don't care about the outside. I just care about the inside. Just getting some of this stuck on dirt out of here. Good, that looks good. Just one more spray and then I get all that material cleaned off. And on some pans, you're gonna need to work a lot harder than this. This pan's in really, really good shape. As I said, this has been serviced before, and it's super clean. The last step that I like to do, finishing off one of these, just to make sure everything's all good, is I like to take a piece of very fine sandpaper, like this here. This is 1500 grit. I just like to go around the pan, just give it a little scrub down. And this really does a good job at sort of removing any burrs, any sort of foreign stuck on material that you may not have got just with the rag. If you've got a pan that's real dirty, you might have to get the whiz wheel on it to get that surface clean enough to go back on. I wouldn't use one of the Scotch-Brite pads, you know, one of the little cookies. I would use one of the plastic wheels. It's got the plastic bristles. It leaves a much finer surface. So as I clean this, I'm just sort of using my fingernail to scratch certain places. If you look on here, you'll see some black marks right there. That's nothing, it's just standing on the pan. So I'm just using my fingernail to feel for that to make sure it's not anything that's raised. Just saying, one more spritz out. Give her a quick wipe with a clean rag. Get her looking real pretty like. Take our magnet, and in case you forgot where the magnet goes, right here. Just stick that right back in place. Don't leave my glove behind. That's all she wrote on the pan. So for these gaskets, if they're in good shape and you're going to reuse them, all I do is I just take a clean rag. I just wipe any material off of it. I don't like to use any brake cleaner on this because it has a tendency of potentially swelling up the plastic and damaging the sealing abilities of it. So just a clean rag will suffice. And I mean, this thing wiped clean easy. And I'm just going to sort of look around it and just inspect the gasket, make sure we don't have any places that are marred up or anything like that. And this one looks fine. So we're just going to pair this back up with the pan here, and all this is good to go. Now we need to prep the vehicle. So prepping the transmission, it goes much the same way. Like I said, this thing's in super good shape. There's no scratches or anything. So really just a rag around the sealing surface just to dry it off and remove any debris is going to be perfectly sufficient on this one. You know, older vehicles, you're probably going to have some stuff on here to get off, especially if someone's went crazy with the RTV on you. Sometimes people will love to do that, man. They will RTV the heck out of some pans. This backside back here behind this pipe, this exhaust pipe's a little bit tougher to get access to and get clean. And this is a clean rag I'm using here, just to point that out. And given this exhaust pipe's location, it can be a little difficult to get this pan snaked back in here, but shouldn't be too big of a deal. All right, I feel pretty good about that. All of this surface all the way around is looking good, looking like a mirror, nice and clean. It's going to accept our gasket very well. So I ran into a little issue here, and I want to show it to you guys because I didn't notice it until I had already bolted this filter up. If we take a look at this one, you can see this is the one that I bolted up. We saw that earlier. It's got this sort of little 2-inch spout coming off of it. If we take a look at this one, this is the right filter for this vehicle. I actually had to go get this at AutoZone. You notice there's no spout there. So there is a couple of different filters for this thing. Make sure you get the right one. This one here would be for, you know, a deeper panned vehicle. I'm not sure which ones use that off the top of my head or anything like that. But the one for my application is this one without this spout on here. As far as that part number, I'm using a Duralast. I had to get this thing at AutoZone. And part number for this filter, TF213. So that's the one that is right for this this transmission in my truck. So yeah, let's continue on to get this pan in. Now that we've got our filter situation figured out, I'm going to go ahead and stick this pan up here. Just got the gasket sitting on top of it. So I'm working front to back, If you get confused on how this pan goes, this little sort of humped portion of the gasket right here, that faces the passenger side of the vehicle. So I'm just snaking this in. There we go. Let me get this gasket lined up. Just get a few of these bolts started. Started by hand. Make sure my gasket is lined up, obviously. Wonderful. Okay. So now that I have a few bolts in that, I'm just going to start the rest using this. Just a little DeWalt drill. Got it on a real low clutch setting. These bolts are tapered, so they're really not a whole lot of risk for cross-threading here. And I just dropped one again. Find that one I dropped. Tell you what, I hate dropping bolts. Dropping bolts, that can be the worst. There I go again, dropping more. Man, I gotta tell you guys, it is super hot in the shop today. How hot do you think it is in here, Harry? 90 degrees?
90, yeah.
Man, it is brutal. And the humidity. Zoom you guys out a little bit more. Yeah, it's funny, you'll hear some of the northern guys talk about how bad the rust is, and you know, it is bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're pretty lucky down here in the south that we don't have to deal with the rust that our northern brethren do. But I gotta tell you, man, the heat here. Heat here is something else. I'm missing 2 bolts. They're probably somewhere random in the floor. Pretty good about not losing bolts, but not sure what I did with these 2 bad boys. Where did I set those? So I found that rogue bolt, and where it was stuck up here. It must have fell down and got lodged into this transmission cross member. Man, that thing will get you lost in a second, huh? So I'm gonna go ahead and torque all these down. Torque spec for these bolts is 89 inch-pounds. I'm just gonna work in a crisscross pattern. And you know, some people don't torque these down. Like I said, I'm a little bit of a torque Nazi. But honestly, I mean, you would be fine just snugging these up. But in my mind, if you're going to do a job right, I say you should do it all the way right. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm just going to Just gonna work around in a circle now, just to make sure I got them all. You know, this does make the job a little bit more tedious. I'll confess that. But I don't know, I think it definitely leaves you with a more quality repair. Sort of the rule of thumb that I go by is anything with a gasket surface I will torque to spec. Anything that is load bearing, I'll torque to spec. Motor mounts, suspension components, brake parts. You know, in my mind, why take a chance? You know, especially when you're talking about a brake component. You know, someone's life is relying on the fact that those fasteners are tight. So, you know, I just think as technicians, we owe it to our customers to take the steps necessary to do a good job and do a proper repair. And I mean, by no means am I trying to say torque everything. Ooh, I'm getting you guys a little bit. You know, I'm not saying torque everything, but things like gaskets and load-bearing components, you know, I'm a big advocate of torquing that stuff down. So I'm just spraying this pan down, getting all this poop up out of here, cleaning up our mess that we made. And then really the last thing we've got down here is just getting this little heat shield back on. Beautiful. Okay. So as far as putting this heat shield back on, pretty simple. Just that's all she wrote for the bottom. Let's drop her down. So the last step on our journey is to get this thing filled back up with transmission fluid. The dipstick on these things is on the passenger side. I'm just lifting that straight up and pulling it out. Got a long funnel. Seating that down in the hole. As far as fluid, what I'm using, Mercon LV. That is the OE fluid for this vehicle. I'm a big advocate on using OE fluids, you know, when you're talking transmission fluid, power steering, stuff like that. I would definitely stay away from any sort of universal branded transmission fluids or anything like that, especially for newer vehicles. I mean, if you've got something with high miles that's maybe something older, you know, probably not as big of a deal on those, but for modern vehicles, modern transmissions, I definitely recommend using OE fluid where you can. I'm going to start with just about 3.5 quarts in this, and we're going to see where that gets us. You know, one thing you can do is you can measure the fluid that comes out, for sure, nothing wrong with that. Doing a job like this, it is a little difficult to catch all that fluid. But that's one way to do it. You know, you just measure what you bring out, and you just put that exact amount back in. That's it if your transmission was properly filled in the first place. So I've got 3.5 quarts in there now. I'm just going to go start this thing up, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this thing back and forth from park to drive. I'm going to spend about 5 seconds in each gear, and that's just going to allow this fluid to permeate all the different valves in the valve body of the transmission. Allow this fluid to really saturate every part of the valve body and the pumps and all that good stuff. Just sitting in drive now. I'm gonna get about 3 or 4 seconds. Moving back to reverse. I'm not feeling any clunking or anything like that, so what that tells me is we're still super low on fluid. I'm gonna throw this thing back in park. Go ahead and add another 2 quarts. We'll see how that one does. There we go, she's getting somewhere now. Give it a good 5 seconds or so here in reverse. Moving back into drive, give it another 5 seconds. Back into reverse. So when I get the transmission to a point where it's actually firmly shifting into gear, that's when I start checking the fluid level. So I'm gonna throw this back into park. And one thing you gotta keep in mind is because you're pouring fluid into this funnel here, it's gonna be the habit of that fluid to sort of saturate the tube going down there, and it's gonna skew your readings a little bit. So sometimes what you need to do is let the vehicle settle for a little bit, let that fluid run down to the pan of the transmission. Just taking a look at my fluid level here. Looks like I'm just a bit below the crosshatch. Let that settle just a little bit more. Oftentimes your readings may be a little high after you put transmission fluid in through the stick, and that's just that fluid settling down. But I'm basically just going to rinse and repeat this, and I'm going to adjust the fluid level until it's within the lines. So here's our finished product. A little bit tough to see using the camera, especially how clean this fluid is. but we're just shy of the top of this crosshatch area here. And I like to go just a little bit low, and the reason I do that is because the transmission hasn't warmed up yet. As the transmission gets hot, that fluid's going to expand, and it's going to increase this level. Really, the sort of final step when you're doing a service like this is to go dry the vehicle, get the transmission up to operating temperature, and then recheck your level, make sure you're good. You know, do any adjustments if you need to. But that's it. Let's wrap it up. That's all she wrote. Pretty easy transmission service on this Ford Ranger. Definitely be careful about the filter issue that we saw with that one that had that longer spout for a deeper pan. Again, my truck, not the right application. For my truck, the filter that I use did not have that sort of long 2-inch spout off of it. So just be careful when you're doing this service. Maybe a good idea to look at your pan and see if maybe your pan is, you know, deeper than the one that's on my truck. I didn't actually measure it or anything, but the one on my truck's about 2 inches deep, so hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. But this is my first shot at a repair video. Hopefully you guys liked it and enjoyed. More to come for sure. You know, definitely some more diagnostic videos also. So this has been another episode of Triangle Diagnostics. Thanks for watching.